Welcome to Careers in Discovery, your window into the world of biotech leaders. On each episode, we interview the industry's leading executives to understand how they built their careers, what they've learned along the way, and the advice they'd give to their younger selves. This week, we welcome Riccardo Panella to Careers in Discovery, CSO of Resalis Therapeutics and Associate Professor at the Center of RNA Medicine in Copenhagen. Riccardo talked to us about how a little bit of serendipity during his postdoc at Harvard led to him exploring the role of microRNAs in metabolism, as well as balancing an academic and entrepreneurial career. We talked about leadership, collaboration, adaptability and perseverance. It's a conversation not to be missed.
Hey, welcome back to Careers in Discovery. Today I'm joined by Riccardo Panella, who's founder and CSO at Resalis Therapeutics, and also Associate Professor at the Center of RNA Medicine in Copenhagen. Welcome, Riccardo.
Hello, Emma. It's very nice to be here with you today. And hello, everyone.
I'm really excited to talk a little bit about the work that you're doing at the moment, both as the CSO for Resalis, but also your work as an associate professor. Shall we start there?
Yeah, sure. We can start there. So, to give you an overview, everything started when I was a postdoc at the Harvard Medical School. Right after my PhD, I got my PhD in Italy. I'm a biotech by formation. I got my PhD in Italy, and after the PhD, I won a Marie Curie fellowship and I moved to the Harvard Medical School. And during my years as a postdoctoral fellow at Harvard, I discovered the role of a microRNA, miR22, in metabolism, and we start developing a therapeutic approach toward this microRNA. During that years, I filed several patents. There became later on the foundation for Resalis Therapeutics. So I founded Resalis Therapeutics in 2021. When I was already independent, at that time I was an assistant professor at the Desert Research Institute in Reno, Nevada. And I started working and having this both side, and I found that very interesting to do and see science from these two different perspectives, the academic one and the company one.
Yeah.
So that's very, very interesting. Thanks to God, there is a lot of interest and an overlapping interest between Resalis focus on developing drugs against metabolic disease and my academic interest in investigating the role of non-coding RNA in metabolism. So this allowed me to keep both roles and have the possibility to keep doing research on both sides in a way that it's kind of very complementary. So I was very lucky.
Yeah. And we can dig into that in a little bit more detail. First, I'd like to ask, how did you decide science was the career for you, especially sort of in the areas of drug discovery?
So I was always, since I was a PhD student, I was always interested in translational research.
Okay.
For me, it was very important in my mind, since I was very young, to have a project that could end up in somehow affecting in a positive way patient life. So I recognize the importance of basic science, but it was not something that I was, it resonates to me. For me, it was always very important to have this translational side on my research. And so since my PhD, I really decided that I wanted to focus on project and I wanted to do effort in steering my careers toward projects that had the potential to end up as a therapeutic areas or something.
Yeah. did you have much access to the pharma life science industry when you were at university?
No, not at all. I
Yeah.
had a very, very classical, if you want, very, very classical academic formation, and that was kind of, in a way, limiting to me. When I arrived as a postdoctoral at the Harvard Medical School, I still had this idea that science was done inside the academia. It was when I was in the US, it was like the first time that I was exposed to different approaches to science. I started interacting more with pharma. I started interacting more with VC funds. I didn't know what a VC was back there, and I was a pretty educated PhD person, but the academia really was very like focusing on the academic way to do science, and for me, being exposed to this different way of approach science was very, very mind-opening.
Yeah. And looking back, your impression of industry when you were studying at Harvard, and now the reality that you've been able to, through your experience, obtain, was it closely matched?
I have to admit, it was a wrong impression. I was used to think that there was like a bright side and a dark side of science, and in somehow pharma and biotech was like the dark side. This idea of doing science with a commercial purpose, with a business idea in mind, I thought that was kind of the dark side, and then I realized that it's not like that, actually in pharma and in biotech you can do, and a lot of people are doing, and I think we in Resalis, we are doing good science, very good science, as good as the one that happened in the academia, and I found like several difference between like the approach to science. Some of them are very, very intriguing for me from the company side. For example, one of these is the speed of science. In academia, project takes very long time. In order, to publish a very good paper, you have to collect an enormous amount of data. It'll take time. It's really a different pace in the company world, in the biotech and in pharma. It's much more faster. If things are working, you keep doing good science. If they're not, you just drop them, and this is not necessarily bad, because if something it's going well, and if a project is promising, you have the possibility to develop that project in a much shorter amount of time compared to academia.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing it. So it must be so valuable for the students at your university to have the exposure to you. It's something that I hear quite often, that in academia, industry seen as the dark side, and there just isn't much access to the way that the world works. So that's invaluable for the students.
Yeah, they are quite happy, and I try, to expose them as much as I can, especially because I found that for me was not ideal not to be exposed to all these other areas earlier, and so now with my students I always try to give them this message that, guys, there is the academia, it's good, it's fantastic, it's public, it's for everyone, it's very important, but don't limit yourself thinking that there is just academia. There is also this and this and this and that. Open your mind. I think it's important, not just in a career setting, it's important to give them the mental framework,
Yeah.
being open, know everything that is around you. As a scientist, one of the first characteristic that I try to evoke in my students is the curiosity.
Yeah.
You have to be curious, and you have to keep your eyes open and look everywhere, because that will be extremely beneficial for your career, of course, but also for the kind of science that you're gonna do it.
Yes. Yeah. Talk me through your career story and the points that have been the most formative. We talked about your time at Harvard. From leaving Harvard.
So I think that was very formative. That was
Yeah.
for me was there was a moment in my postdoctoral fellow in which I really realized that I need more space, and I need a very collaborative environment around me. And sometimes around me I didn't really find a super collaborative environment, or groups that were competing were pretty common back then in some of the environment that I was involved with. And when you have the possibility to join other lab meeting and being exposed to other people's science, or expose your science to other groups to get feedback, but you have to pay attention of what to say, what not to say. Maybe it's better if we don't show those data because they might scoop us, etc., etc. This for me, it's really, it doesn't create that collaborative environment that I really hope and I think that would be beneficial for science in general. And so that was kind of a changing point for me, and that triggered my curiosity to being exposed to other way to do science. That was one thing. And then the other thing was that my project as a postdoc was really having a big therapeutic angle, and I realized that sometimes the academia doesn't have like the capacity in terms of economy, in terms of budget, and in terms of timing to really produce or carry on to a certain high level a therapeutic approach in certain areas. So those two factors really push me to look around and try to understand what else there was around me that could have helped me in finding a very collaborative world and way to work, and what else was around that could help my project in being pushed forward with a certain pace that I would like to see.
Yeah. Okay. Then when you started Resalis, during the pandemic, and just after the first year of the pandemic, what was that experience like?
During the pandemic, yes, it was kind of a long journey before starting Resalis. Imagine that our patent, I think we filed the patent in 2019 or something around them, 2018, 2019, and then we start knocking at doors, and we got so many no's, Emma, that I mean, uncountable numbers of no's, and this is something that in a way the academic background really helped there, because in science, we are really used, and I think it's very important to get used to failure. Experiment doesn't work, your hypothesis is wrong, and failure, it's okay, it's fine, it's normal. I heard this from a professor, from one of my mentor one time, that we need to be right once. If in a scientist in his career, in her career, a scientist, it's right once, he might have a breakthrough discover that it's enough for the entire career. So when we start knocking at doors, trying to see if there was anyone interesting in developing our therapeutic approach, we got no's and no's for years. But we were resilient. We didn't stop. And this is also part of the name of
I was going to say, is it a coincidence?
It's really not a coincidence. Yeah. So we were resilient. We keep knocking at doors. We really thought that our approach was an interesting one. And in the end, in 2021, we found this Italian VC, very young. They were very pioneering and visionary. They are called Claris Venture. They are like two partners, very young, my age. So back then they had their first fund, and they were looking for a visionary project. And they realized that there was like an empty space in Italy, and there were no VC focusing exclusively on biotech. So they start to filling the gap, and they start looking for interesting healthcare biotech.
And do they have a background in science?
They do. They have like biomedical engineering. Yeah. They have like biomedical engineering, and it was very, very lucky, and was a very good fitting from both sides. And so they really helped us in raising our seed funding. We were then founded in 2021 in the middle of the pandemic. They were in Italy, I was in Nevada. There was like a 9 hour of time difference. Organizing meeting was like crazy, waking up like 5 a.m. to do the meeting with Europe before it was too late there. I mean, very, very intense period. And they helped us in forming the first syndicate. And after that, they were very supporting, and we were able to move the preclinical program pretty fast. Wow. In 2021 we were founded. In 2024 we got our first in human. So we moved.
Incredible.
It was very fast. Yes, we were very well supported. We keep our organization very lean, and that helped us in making the most out of the money and the funding that we had. So that was extremely beneficial, and that also sparked the interest of other investors, because when they see a reality that it's moving fast and it's producing and it's using funding in a smart, intelligent, clever, efficient way, they really like, and they are more confident. And so that allowed us to also to close the Series A that we closed at the beginning of 2024, and that was crucial to move from preclinical to clinical and to found all the clinical phase. So that was very intense.
Exciting. Completely intense. I can't imagine. How do you, and it's fantastic from a business perspective that it moves so quickly, from a financial perspective that it moves so quickly. What about you and your learning and your development? How do you keep up as a new founder of a new business, having not done this before? How do you?
We saw that, and there was also some discussion about that when someone like me is founding a a company, a biotech, there is also that moment in which you got asked if you're gonna be the CEO, if you wanna, which role you wanna have, and I didn't feel confident in taking up a role that I was not fitting with. I don't have the CEO skills. I don't have management or financing or marketing skills. What I could offer to my company was my scientific background. And so I think that was pretty crucial for me to have, of course, the learning curve was pretty steep. I had to learn a lot, all the preclinical development and the toxicology, etc., but keep myself confined in the science part of the company, I think was the right choice for me, for my career, and also for the company. I always had in mind what was the most beneficial for the company, and what I can really bring to the company, and what I can really bring in science, and having like a small preclinical team that I can form from a scientific point of view is what I was looking for, and that's how I managed that. I think that if I would have taken up another role, maybe a more prestigious role, maybe the CEO role or something like that, that wouldn't be beneficial neither for me nor for the company, because my skills and my knowledge rely on another setting of knowledge.
Yeah. Leave the ego at the door, play to your strengths. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes. Absolutely.
And it's really important, but you've got to think about what you can gain, but ultimately what's best for the business, and to get ultimately to the goal of having medicine in patients.
Yeah, of course was kind of I was asking myself, because it's flattering when you think about, should I really take the leading role, being the face of the company, or should I let this go, having another person being the face of what I discover, so there was some conflict, inside conflict, but in the end I think that the right choice was to stay in the area that was my area.
How do you deal with that? Because when it's your baby, when you're the founder, and it is your baby, isn't it?
It is.
So there is an element of control. You've got to let some things go to be able to work effectively with the new team that you put around yourself.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, I mean that probably come also from my family that was always like supporting with me and with my activity, but they also were very willing to let me go when the moment was right, not keeping me in the nest, but be sure that I could roam in the world and find my my own way, and that was probably also my approach with Resalis. It's my baby, but I know that in order for my baby to be successful, I cannot keep it confined and keep hugging him. I have to let it go, and it was like I think that was mainly it. I mean, I realized pretty soon that if I really want Resalis to develop fast and to see my baby grow, it was important to let it go a little bit. I think that's probably an approach that I have not just toward Resalis. I think that as a professor, as a mentor, I really consider myself successful if the people that are working with me are gonna be more successful than me. I don't count my success on number of paper or impact factor per se. I really think that if I can form people and those people can be more successful than me, that I would be like super happy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great legacy to build, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Pretty proud of it.
If you had to give one piece of advice to scientists who are early in their career, or perhaps people who are in academia at that moment and thinking about taking that step into industry, what one piece of advice would you give to them?
Be curious. Keep being curious and have a plan. But don't be so, how can I say it? Don't stick on that plan if it's not working.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, all this Resalis story and whole how my career developed since when I left Italy, in a way, what was also serendipity.
Yeah.
It was just few words on that, if you allow me. Basically, when I joined Harvard, I was at the Cancer Center, and we were looking for super oncogenic microRNAs. So the project was a complete, pure oncological project. We found miR22, and our hypothesis was that this microRNA was very tumorigenic. So we build up a mouse model, we generate a mouse model, and our hypothesis was wrong. The cancer phenotype was present, but very late in the life of mice. It was not the predominant phenotype. The predominant phenotype was the obesity phenotype. And at that point, I thought, okay, science, it's indicating me one way. I move from Italy to the US because I want to pursue a career in cancer, but science is telling me something else. And I have to follow science. So have a plan, but be ready to steer the well and follow what science is telling you. If I have to give a piece of advice to someone, and keep being curious. Keep being curious. The real meaning of science is not to prove yourself right. It's to discover something new. So if your hypothesis is wrong, it's okay. You don't have to keep working on that project just to prove yourself right. This is one of the biggest mistake that I saw with people, very, very talented scientists, that in the end, to follow their idea ended up in a they could have ended up in a much better position.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Both within their career and probably mindset as well. That's hard. Often people talk about it being harder to stop doing something than it is to carry on. It's almost the easy decision to keep carrying on. Knowing the right time to stop is difficult.
And I think this goes hand by hand with another concept that we touch upon at the beginning of our conversation, the different pace. The fact that academia has a much slower pace. When you are working on a project for for a long time, 2-3 years, it's much harder to let it go. Compare to a project that you just started in 6 months, you realize it's not working and you move to another idea. So I think it goes hand by hand, and it's important for people in science, both sides, to keep being curious and not just focusing on their hypothesis, on proving themselves right.
Yeah. What else you mentioned earlier in our conversation was that importance of the collaboration piece and finding people that work in the way you wish to work. How have you gone around creating that sort of collaborative approach within Resalis?
First of all, trying, and that's always like a big bet because you don't know in advance, okay? You take your risk, but trying to select a person that you have a good feeling with. Of course, I mean, in Resalis, we are very lucky because we are a small group of people. We are around like 12 employees, and 80% of us, we have a PhD. So it's very, very well educated team. And when we select the team, we always try to have multiple conversation and establish a kind of relationship since the beginning. I think that one of the things that on the long run, it's really paying off. It's to be able to clearly and honestly communicate with your team, both sides. And this is something that we're doing very well in Resalis. So I think that's very important. Initially, you know, it might create some tension because when you are open and honest with people, you really have to understand what is the best way to communicate, and everyone is receptive in a different way. So that's something that it's pretty hard to learn, but once that you find the right way to communicate with people and having an honest and direct communication, I think that really change the relationship inside the group and communicate that kind of environment in which everyone is feeling free to expose their idea or to comment and criticize someone else, and with in the environment in which everyone is ready to be criticized, and I'm the first one. If someone of my team or in Resalis or in general, or when we talk with pharmas and investors and other academic group, if someone criticizes me and my science and challenge me, I'm super receptive to that. I don't think that I don't take that personally, but I take
it. That's the key, isn't it? That's
yes,
the key.
that's the key. That's the key. If you take it personally, it's game over. If you don't take it personally, it's a growing opportunity. That's something that it might take time to realize, and it's something that in our team we were able to create this working environment pretty well.
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you for sharing. So, what's next? What's next for Riccardo and Resalis?
The next for Resalis, we hope that it's the phase 2 of our clinical trial. We just started phase 1, and knocking on wood and keeping all the finger crossed, everything is going well so far. So we recently also have a strategic investment from Sanofi, the pharma. So having a pharma on board, it's a big validation for us.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
An important milestone to make, isn't it?
Yeah. It was 2024 was a very intense year for us, and we hope that 2025 will be even better. And we would, everyone in Resalis would love to see the program advance at the same pace in which we did in the past years, and achieving more and more important milestone, and eventually have a real impact on patient life. In the meantime, we are also trying to support and have a lot of collaboration with other academic group, support PhD student, and try to give back to the public research what we got from the public research. So in a way, we think that the science should go both ways, and we hope to implement these as well. And that's that's what we are aiming for. Let's hope that phase 1 will be successful and we can smoothly move into phase 2 and advance that program.
So very exciting. Will it be towards the end of the year that you'll have the data?
Yes. It would take more or less for SAD, MAD. It would take more or less the entire 2025, and so we'll see. 2026 will be interesting. For me, it's time to come back to Italy. So I'm trying to fully relocate to Italy and potentially move completely to biotech. So
Okay.
I'm looking more
Yeah.
and more into the biotech space, and just step a little bit out of academia, not out of science. Still,
Yeah.
science, it's a big passion, so I want to still be there. But if I want to come back to Italy, I think it's important to keep in mind that I'm outside the Italian academic system for so long that it would be tough to re-enter in it, and so that's my idea. I will probably transition to biotech in full swing in the upcoming, I don't know, couple of years, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So much exciting stuff. Will keep a very close eye for progress in your phase 1, but wish you every success. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
A pleasure.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please like and subscribe and share it with someone else you think will benefit. And for more podcasts, videos, blogs and insights, come follow me, Tom Froggatt, on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Medium or TikTok. See you next time.